Hello, this is Gene. It's about 24 hours after what happened yesterday. Um, Crazy thing happened yesterday. Before the selecting committee came down, I did a video and I said it's the nightmare scenario is coming true. What is the committee going to do? A lot of wind going on right now, so it's possible this might fall off, but I'm just letting you know that. And I got like maybe 40 people watch that one. So after the committee did what they did, I went out there and I said, I asked a question: should we basically boycott the Orange Bowl and not play Georgia, and just end up being 13-0, and to basically salute our quarterback, because apparently Travis is the greatest football player that's ever played in college football history, and should clearly be the unanimous choice at the Heisman, because without them, we can't win. And that's basically what the committee did yesterday. I don't want to be like everybody else and say certain things and all that stuff, or talk about conspiratorial stuff, but because I don't write anything down, I can't read stuff because of my stroke and all that. A lot of this is going to be from how I feel, and not really what I feel, because I'm just a fan. I've been with him for 50 years. And what really hurts me as a fan is that I kind of like went away from them for a couple of years, especially under Taggart. And it's not because he was a black coach. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that the team was undisciplined. They weren't very likable, even though they're young kids and you got to give them their, you still have to look at them that way. The team was not very likable. And being a Florida State alumnus, not fully, I was always hopeful that we would go back to have the type of team that had character, like under Bobby. We had some issues under Bobby, but they were never even close to what they've had at other universities in the state. But I bought into this team. And like I said before, as much as I love this team, and I knew more about this team in probably the last 30 years, 25 years, I couldn't really watch them live unless we were playing a team I knew they were going to win. I watched them at Boston College, and we were winning that game, and all of a sudden, they came into it, and I had to stop watching it. I definitely watched them against Northern Alabama, and of course we saw what happened there. And I think early in the year we played a lesser team at home, and I made a comment back then. I said we have to learn how to run the ball, and like Gene, we scored 60 on them. I said we could have scored 100. But anyway, that's just, we were like evolution lately, going through the season to get better and better and better. So I really don't want to go and dispute all the people that I see now defending what the committee did. But I will say a couple things, all right? It's all great when they say you have to look at our strength of schedule. Okay. You have to look at the fact that the best, I know it's not a good thing or bad thing. I got guys telling me that Kentucky beating Louisville was the best out-of-conference win for the SEC, and then they say, well, that's because that was a really bad SEC team that was beat up by Alabama, and there was a guy that's on this committee that's the AD of Kentucky, and then they beat Louisville because that was our second best team, and it was a mid-SEC team, and the SEC has to be better, and all that stuff. And I'm like, we're going to claim this all, and you're gonna die on that hill. You're gonna die on the fact on the fourth and 31, and you beat Georgia by 3, and you're gonna die on that, and that also on strength of schedule, and that's all great. That's all great. You should compare yourself against other one-loss teams, and that's what it should have been done. We should have never been in that discussion. It should have been the 3 undefeated Power 5 champions in their discussion. And apparently that this committee would have still got us third there. Personally, I think we have a better resume than Michigan does. So it is what it is at this point, right? But we should have never been in that discussion. And we should not be on a screen right before they show who's going to be 4th or 5th, and then try to compare us that way. We should have never been in that discussion because we have the one thing that they don't have. We didn't lose all season. It's a very simple process. In my video 4 weeks ago, I said this could happen because of the bias that we have, especially now. It is the SEC and the Big Ten. Look at the chart that we had, guy put on YouTube or whatever yesterday, and it showed everyone in the top 12 and where they're going to be next year. Florida State was the only person that wasn't going to be in the Big Ten or the SEC. And then we get people like a lot of people online, these sports medias that they think they know shit. These are people that go to colleges, liberal indoctrination colleges, and they get a journalistic degree, and now they understand what football's about. But they're like, well, the ACC had the ability to get us to a 12-game playoff earlier, and this wouldn't have happened. These are excuses for what the committee did without just, they're like, well, they can't be, because everybody was saying, this is what it should be, and we were going to be out, and this is what the committee will do because it's what they've done this before. But it really should be this team over here. Regardless if we ever play these teams, it should be this as well. Okay. So they did what they did. I made my point. We don't have to claim anything. We are the only team that's got 19 in a row. But we did what we had to do. There is nobody on that team that should be guilty of anything. And the fact that we have our quarterback has to come out and said what he had to say, and he said it with class, but there was sarcasm in as well. I mean, clearly he would want to be out there. But let's just talk about this just for a little bit. This was already done. It was already in the background. This is shit that didn't happen right after Travis got hurt. Boy, that wind is going to pull this over. It's a beautiful day here in Alabama, and that's another issue that I have. That just down the road is North Alabama that destroyed my quarterback, and I live in Alabama, and thankfully I've not seen, the people in Alabama, I think a lot of them will say that Alabama shouldn't be in. And across the street, in fact, and I'll get to what I was talking about, the actual fix that was in. The guy, when they were playing Alabama and Auburn, he had these big inflatable helmets out front, and he was clearly an Alabama fan, but apparently maybe somebody in the house was an Auburn fan. After that game was over, he left the Auburn helmet up. And I talked to him about it, and he said they didn't deserve to win that game. Now, I haven't talked to him since the selection, but I don't think any of them he's not going to come out and say that they shouldn't be in. I mean, he's a fan, he's going to want them to be in the playoff, although they've been basically giving it to him as a birthright to be in the playoff. And if you're the SEC, it doesn't matter how many times you lose during the season. If you win the SEC championship, you have to be in. And that's basically what it is. And we could talk about the incestuous relationship that the ESPN, the playoff, the SEC has right now, and how much money they get from that. But getting back to the fix being in, this narrative happened before Jordan Travis got hurt. I said in my video, all of a sudden the sports media and ESPN, it was like a calling went out and said we have to push this narrative out here because we think what's down the road, it's going to be Alabama against Georgia, or Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. And there's a possibility that Alabama will beat Georgia. And they lost to Texas already, and we can't have this. So it started filtering out, and it was everywhere. People were just hypothetically talking about this shit. There were people even on War Chant that said, if this happens, oh, it won't happen. We're still going to be in. Everybody who ever won as a Power 5 undefeated will be in. Well, it didn't happen. And I did a video because I saw this happening. I put it out there, and I said in my video, to be fair, I said I thought under that circumstance that they would put Georgia in because they would kind of like compare all the thing, and then Texas would be out. Well, you have to remember how big the brand that Texas is, and they're going to the SEC as well. So what we're seeing in the college football playoff, again, we're seeing the Big Ten and the SEC playing for everything. We did this last year. Other than the fact that we had TCU in that game, and there's like 3 or 4 things that you get on Twitter and on TikTok and on YouTube And these are the same talking points that these people who don't really understand what football really means when you actually play the game on the field. And you know what? I hate fucking Florida. Of course, it wouldn't happen to Florida because Florida's in the SEC, but just say that Florida was in the ACC. And this shit happened to them. There's no way, there'd be no way that I would be supportive of that. I just wouldn't do it. And to be honest, there are guys in my mentions. The video I did after that got almost 20,000 views. It's like the second biggest video I've ever had, and it probably will go over that one I had. And there were a lot of people that are LSU fans, Georgia fans, some even Alabama fans says that we got screwed. Now, I think they really thought that the Florida State fandoms would do anything because Texas and Alabama are bigger groups that we have more power. We'd have just blown up and had riots in Tallahassee or some shit. And they think that they can pull off the past. All I'm saying is that the fix was in before Travis even got injured. They were already saying shit about our offense was not doing enough. The fact that we had a bad game against Pitt, that we were way up in that game and they came back and almost won that game. The fact that we got out of Death Valley because the guy missed a field goal and we won in overtime. The narrative was already there, and they just continually pushed it in for that over and over and over again. And you're like, what? Why is that? Why is that there? So about a week ago, I talked about the actual media bias against Florida State, and it got like 100 people or 300 people watched that, which is good for me. And I just wanted to understand what the issue is, and I could seriously go down the rabbit hole here. I mean, it was funny because Elon Musk said the other day to Bob Iger about Disney to go fuck himself. I think that there's something here. For the last 3 years, the Florida governor has done some stuff to Disney that they don't like. Disney owns ESPN. The thing is, these people are so driven by money, and I'm not going to say why, and the group of people that run these type of companies, who they are, just look them up. So look at the media companies around the world and see what group actually runs this stuff. Because TCU, who beat Michigan in a great game, Ohio State and Georgia played a great game. The two semifinals last year were great games. But we were hearing for the last 4 or 5 weeks that Florida State can't beat TCU. This is before Jordan got hurt. We don't want that again because Georgia blew him out. So is this where we're at? Just be honest about it. The fact that they didn't want all of 100 million people, 30 million people maybe, who turned off the game at halftime because TCU was getting blown out. So they lost that last part of revenue that they're so greedy that has to happen. They don't care about the players on the field at all. They don't care about the integrity of the game. Excuse me, as I said, this wind is trying to stop me off here. I'd say it would be a Seminole win, but that didn't work, did it? So, yeah, I should get something more. You know, a guy that gets 20,000 people to watch my videos. Maybe I should get something to hold my shit. Maybe. I don't think it's gonna work. Hopefully that'll be okay, because that's a little bit further back. So that was the issue, because they lost a lot of money after that halftime. Is that, I mean, okay, then just say that this is just an invitational tournament, and we just would consider the most competitive teams left. But there's no reason why we should play during the season. There's no reason to have it. Just get the brands that you want. And I mean, when we allowed NAL to come in the game and all this stuff, and the transfer portal and all that stuff, this was obviously the result of that. But we're supposed to just sit there and say, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Also there's issue. There's also people in the Knoll community that has issues as well. When our coach comes out with a very fiery response to all this, he said he's disgusted. So if he's disgusted, why can I be disgusted? And why do when I actually ask the question, should we actually play the bowl game? I get people saying there are people on here that says we shouldn't play they're not really fans and all. I'm like, see that's what happens too. Now it divides us and all this stuff because of what other people did outside of the community. It was just a question I had. I mean, why should these guys risk themselves? They did everything they could do. Everything that they did against Louisville, when they knew that they had a true freshman playing quarterback, they had a legendary defensive performance. Did ESPN even talk about it? They knew exactly where the rankings were before they went on the air that day. So everything was scripted out for that narrative that we should be out. And then at the end, you had guys defending what the committee did, and they look like the Vietnam hostage videos. These people were looking like this. Yeah, they did exactly what they should do. The guy from the committee looked the same way. Again, it's all subjective. And when they sit there and say, would everybody and other teams and other fans said, there's no way we could beat Michigan. Michigan, who lost to TCU, their last loss. It's laughable. I could go play quarterback for Florida State with that defense against Michigan, and they would not beat us by 20. It wouldn't happen. I'll make sure I hand the ball off. I can make a down and out shot. Well, I can't anymore because my neck issues. But 10 years ago, I could have done it. My son could do it. I have no doubt that we could actually do something against them. But anyway, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just my despair is for the players, and the fact that, oh, you know what? This is another thing they said. They're like, well, just go beat Georgia and you'll prove your point. And I'm like, tell me how that happens. Because every time a Georgia or Alabama team or LSU or Auburn, when they don't get into the playoff and they go to these bowl games, they fucking lose. And you know what I hear all the time? They weren't motivated because all they were playing for was to try to get in the playoff. So if we beat Georgia, of course they also say that Georgia has half their players not there. It won't matter. If they beat us, the narrative will be solved. They'll say, see, you weren't good enough anyway. And it's like, when I said it in my video, this is the second time they screwed us. This is what they did. They said, you play Georgia. Oh, we're going to play the best team the last 3 years. And then if we don't beat them, then you proved your point. Oh, and then these assholes come back in my comments and said, you just don't want to play Georgia now. I said, but in my video, when I talked about going to playoff, I said, give us 4 fucking weeks to play, to play against them. And this is after Jordan was hurt. Give me 4 weeks to prepare for them. You saw what they did against that Alabama defense. Are you kidding me? Now, they could have got McConkey back and the other guy. What did I say? And people said that I was being racist for saying it. I think there's a way you can actually cover a white receiver. What did he do in that game? Oh, he was hurt. Okay, maybe in 4 years or 4 weeks he might be fine. I'm looking at actual talent. We have players on that defense that can cover all these people. I said it all year that Georgia was pedestrian on offense. When they talk about, well, we want it to be exciting games and want to be competitive, let's really look at the teams that are in the Final Four. Michigan offense is one of the worst in college football. They had under 200 yards against Iowa. They had 2 touchdown drives that were 11 yards between them. We had more offensive yardage than they did. They brought that shit up too. They well, the quarterback only played for 55 yards. We ran for over 200. We had 14 tackles for losses. We had 7 sacks. We left Louisville under 200 yards total offense. This team had averaged 35 points a game. It was a historic, defensive, legendary effort from our team. But the problem is, it didn't fucking matter. The fix was already in. It was already fucking in. And then it's like, I mean, I go into conspiracies and other things. When I tell you my videos, and you'll see that, I'm thankful I have over 600 subscribers. Thank you. If you want to look at my other videos, you're going to see whether you like me or not, because I'm kind of out there in some things. But you cannot trust the media. They're all driven by whatever rules over them. The call went out about 4 or 5 weeks ago to downplay this Florida State team for whatever reason. And it's not like it's not unprecedented. It happened in 2014 when we were undefeated, defending champions. And what did they do? We had 2 teams that were above us in the ratings at the end, and we had to go out and play Oregon out in the Rose Bowl. Good trip, I guess. And then today I'm hearing all these Washington people are like, I can't believe we have to go to Sugar Bowl. We have to go so far away. And I'm like, we went to the fucking Rose Bowl when we were the defending champions. We should have played in New Orleans against Alabama. We weren't fucking ducking anybody. We'd won 26 in a row. It's like, okay, we lost Oregon. Then their point was proven, because we lost Oregon in a game we gave to them. Look at the fucking game. There's a difference when you actually get beat, like, let's say get beat like Iowa did. As bad as Michigan was offensively, that's 26-0 is an actual beatdown. We lost by 30. And we were in that game the entire game, but we just gave them the game at the end. It is what it is, right? So you just think that's what's a one-off. They didn't allow the defending champions to stay home, somewhat close to our home. Didn't do that. Fine. I guess it was like, since we won the championship the year before there, that we had to go there back to do the semifinal, and maybe that's what their little thing was. So what does it mean now? Basically, right now, we don't have a Power 5. We have a Power 4, and really, it's a Power 2. So what they basically said to Florida State is that the ACC is no longer the Power 5. It's the Group of 5. And just to be happy, here's the Orange Bowl, because that's all we give to the Group of 5. Everybody, my wife just told me how everybody got screwed off at school, that Florida State got screwed at work. This is Alabama. These people are Alabama fans. But so today they might say that, but they're going to go watch the college football playoff. And the fact that they've won so many, I think that I don't think they would have died. The thing is, like, we can't have Alabama not in it. I don't think the fans would have just went crazy about it. They might for a while. They said, on a day, probably we beat Florida State 99 out of 100. And you can have that conversation. Even with Travis, you could say it. I think this is a really bad Alabama team, historically, the last 10 years. But they still could win the championship, because the teams that they're playing, they have the better athletes. But anyway, now I'm going to lose what I thought. Damn it. Damn it. So anyway, it's about 2014. Anyway, there's a lot of things. I mean, like I said, you go down all the down rabbit holes and all that stuff, and I don't want to do that. That takes away what the effort that the players did, the kids did, doing everything that they were supposed to do. They checked up all the pocket boxes, and they just didn't deserve what happened to them. And this is pissing me off, because I think I was coming to a point. I don't even know. I don't remember what I was going to say. And this happens when you get older. It also happens when you have a stroke that does this. And your short-term memory kind of gets impacted. And I had a lot more things to think about. I don't know. Yeah, let's just talk about this. It would be a lose-lose situation if we play Georgia. We're not going to get credit if we beat them. There might be like a group that comes out and says we should be a co-champion, and maybe the AP or somebody will give it to us. I don't think that will happen, especially if like Washington goes and does it, or Michigan does it, and then they lose it next year. I mean, I go down that avenue as well. Michigan, should they be there? It's like I said before, when people have their little things, and it's all the same. And this because your strength of schedule wasn't as good, or we struggle with some teams, and you don't have your quarterback anymore. And I'm like, the bettors, the bookies would have us favored for 14 points over you. We were favored by 17 against Oklahoma in 2000. Who won the game? It wasn't us. Penn State against Miami. Who won the game? It wasn't Miami. It's like, you play on the field, man. The idea that we can't match up with the teams that are actually in the playoff, you have to take out Miami or Alabama, right? Because we would take in their spot. Although I think we should be taking over Texas's, but that's another debate. Tell me we can't match up man to man, other than the quarterback. And I'm going to tell you this right now: Rodder Baker is as good as the guy that plays at Michigan. He is. They don't do anything there. They run the ball and they throw it to the outside every now and then. They have a good defense. They play Big Ten football, and they get exposed in the playoff. And they're going to be exposed by Michigan or by Alabama. This is the worst Alabama team, probably 10 years, I'm thinking. And there's a reason for that, and we talked about it in other videos, is NAL and all that stuff, and Saban doesn't have all this power, but he does. He has the power when he says, we're Alabama and we won the SEC championship, we have to be in. And if that happens, we lost to Texas, they have to be in. Okay. Then we couldn't play against Washington? Washington that almost lost 3 times at the end of the season. They played well against Oregon, but how good is Oregon? I want to talk about that too. We'll talk about that. Maybe Texas? Man to man, do you think that they're better than us? The only team out there that has more depth than us would be Alabama. And that's the same thing with Georgia. Georgia, their second team on the defense, will probably still stifle us with Rodemaker. So they're probably going to be, they're already favored by 11, I think. But the kids can do whatever they want to do. And I'm not going to come out here after we beat Georgia and say we deserve, it'll be our 20th win in a row, that we deserve a championship, because it's not the same. You can't tell me that, just prove it against Georgia. I thought we did that for the last 19 fucking weeks. Okay, but let's just do it again against Georgia. But you know what? It wasn't their number one team, so we can't give you anything. And then I have these guys risk everything. What they did, what that defense did on Saturday, was epic in every scale. And they put everything on the line, and we got nothing for it. They got nothing for it. And that's where the despair is for, because this team was a really good team, a real team. When I said on my video, and people are like, well, you're not the best team. We are the best team in college football. It's not even close. Look at the dictionary definition of a fucking team. You don't have to win all the game to be the best team. We are the best. And to me, that's not even, there isn't even anything close to that. There's no bias here at all. I would say that if I was a Florida team, well, I wouldn't do that. But let's talk about Oregon, because we're here. When I talk about the fix being in, and maybe I already said it in this video. I'm sorry if I did, if I'm going to go over the same shit. Sorry. Stroke, old man. Happens. We'd have been out. If Oregon would have beat Washington, we'd have been out. They would have had a better win Because if we're going to just look at teams and we don't care about their wins and losses, when they're going to take out, it would have been very simple to me. And I put it on my video. I said, the 3 undefeated teams are over here. You figure out what you want to do with that. The 4, 5, one-loss teams, let's figure them out that way. And you put them all together, and I said, okay, it's very simple to me. There are 2 that actually won the Power 5. That's Alabama and Texas. Let's compare them. Sorry, Ohio State. Sorry, in this scenario, let's say Washington. Well, what am I going to say here? Let's talk about how it actually ran out, and then we'll talk about Oregon being in there. So in those 2 positions, it's Alabama lost to Texas. They're out. So figure out what you can do with those other undefeated teams, and we got the payoffs. Let's go on. We'll go back to sleep. We'll go out and party out or whatever. It's over. That's not what this committee did. They put us in there with them. They didn't put those other one-loss teams against the other undefeated teams, Michigan and Washington. They put us in it, and then our resume or whatever doesn't look as good because they take away what we had over them that we didn't lose a game. Let's talk about if Oregon was in that situation. They would say that the best win for anybody in college football was Alabama's win. You're gonna have one team, or 2 teams that would be undefeated. We should be over here, right? We should be here with Michigan, right? But that's not what they. But just say this. That's where we should be, and they're gonna have all these one-loss teams, and they can say, well, they beat Washington, who were in the top 4 every year, the entire year. That's a really good win. Alabama, really, really good win. They beat Georgia, and Texas beat Alabama. Well, shit. Before we came into champion Saturday, we had Oregon 5th. If we can't put Alabama over Oregon, we can't take Texas over Oregon because Oregon beat a team that was number 3 in the country. Shit, we got to put them all in. Florida State, we have a little thing in our charter. If we have a player that's hurt, that will just demonstrably change the ability or the team, you're out. It would have been Michigan with 3 one-loss teams. And there would be no discussion between us and Michigan at all. They will never went up and put us against everybody else there that has 1 loss. They would have never put us against Michigan. And then actually look at our resume against Michigan. Michigan should have been out. I mean, come on. That's exactly what they would have done. And there was a guy that said it last night on Twitter. He said that to me. And he had all the little things out. He said, yeah, you guys would have been out as well if Oregon would have won. I was like, so it really, either the fix was in all along, which there's part of that is true, or it all comes down to the fact that Alabama won because they got a 4th and 31 against a 6-6 team. That got them into the playoff, and that allowed Texas to be in the playoff because Texas beat Alabama. And they would have put Oregon in as well because they were ranked 5th. They would have never allowed that. How would they have done that? Because they had just beaten Washington, who's in the top 3. There's no way. It would have been Michigan, Oregon. No, it probably been Michigan. I don't know. They would have won Michigan against Oregon. They might have put Oregon at Oregon. They probably wouldn't have because we don't have the actual Big Ten versus. It didn't happen. So, so it would have been those teams I said. And I said, when I was watching this after we won, and I was out there with my son, my disabled son, and he was just very happy, and we were like, and I was just sitting there for about 30 minutes after the game, and I said, we have a real chance to win this. And I said, there's a good chance that we might actually play Washington here in the Sugar Bowl. I could go see that game. I said, it's been a long time since I had to deal with the fact that I was there when we got beat by Florida in 96. I would love to be able to go in that stadium now to have 70% of the people in the stands being Florida State fans. It wasn't that day. It was just a lot of Florida fans there. and not good when it goes to. I've never seen them lose in a regular season games, but they've lost twice when I've watched them in bowl games. I would have loved to do that personally. That would have been something I would have put some money down on and go watch it and take my kid, Ryan or Kyle, to go to the game. And if we lose to Washington, fine. I have no issue with Washington, even though I'm more partial to Washington State because I was stationed there, near there. Went to many games down there as well. But I have no. I don't really matter if Washington wins it all. That's great, because it's something that the Big 12 should have, right? Because again, people continually. When I make these videos, and I said, when people tells me the SEC is so much better, and I'm like, I've been everywhere in the country. It's not what it is. It's the top teams in these different conferences are the best. It doesn't mean the entire conference is great. And sometimes the ACC or the SEC has 3 or 4 really good teams. But that's kind of like changing. And I think everybody in the sports media knows this, that they're down. The SEC is down. But it didn't matter. It doesn't matter because they have this incestual relationship with the college football playoff, ESPN, and Disney. And they have to make more money. They have to make money, because Disney has lost a lot of money this year. And that's where all it comes down to. Here we go again. They come here every 2 days, and they pay more and more shit to all these different things. Anyway, this is like the 3rd time that I've had to do it. Well, he's on the other side. Okay. So like I said, Oregon would have been in as well. And what were we doing then? And we know that the fix was already in. So what am I supposed to do? Like I said, thank you to all the people that watched that video. Nobody's going to watch this for 37 minutes. So I know I'm talking to myself at this point. But what? Why? I mean, personally, I don't fear Georgia. I saw what I saw. I saw Alabama should have lost to Auburn, could have lost to USF, could have lost to Arkansas. This team just beat Georgia. Why would I fear Georgia? The power, the balance in college football has changed dramatically because they put money into it, because the transfer portal, all that stuff. There's none of those teams. Every team in that playoff that's in there now can win it, and any of them could, and probably 5 or 6 teams outside the playoff can clearly win it. But Gene, that's the 12 team playoff right there. So why are you upset about it? I'm upset because my seniors that are going to leave, and some of the guys that are going to say, you know what? You guys sent a message to this Power 5 ACC team that basically you're a group of 5 team, and this will be used against us. Now, people say it won't be because we're going to 12 team playoff. Seriously, you could talk about this if you had reporters or if you had investigators that could find out what's going on. There are people talking about doing lawsuits and stuff like that. That's not going to work. Rick Scott wants to do something about it. What are you going to do? I would like to see transparency, because I know that the crew had this information before they released it. They know all this stuff. The whole show was set up for this. They've been pushing this narrative for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and here it is. And then at the end of the day, they say, well, the committee got it right. The committee got it right. Oh, let me look. Yeah, because Jordan Travis clearly is the greatest quarterback in the history of Florida State. And then give him the fucking Heisman. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later.